Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my 2024 reading goals. So firstly, in 2023, I read 45 books and my goal was 40. So I actually surpassed my goal by 5, which is like really exciting. And then this year in 2024, my goal is to read 50 books. This is the big year, the big number, what I've been working towards since I started getting into reading. I've always wanted to just have be able to say I read 50 books. This year, that's just the perfect number for me with reading. So I'm really excited for this year. And then some little reading goals that I have for myself is to read more series, specifically larger series. For example, I think I want to read Percy Jackson this year and possibly try Sarah J. Maas. We will see about that, but definitely I want to read Percy Jackson this year. And then just expand my genres a little bit more. I feel like last year specifically, I really got a solid, my favorite genres are fantasy and romance, but this year I kind of want to continue out and try more, maybe a thriller, a mystery, classics, that sort of thing. And then I think that's all I have for reading goals. I don't try to set too many. I don't really have too many, but that's what I have for reading goals. And now I'm going to talk about the 20 books that I want to read in 2024. I was thinking about doing 24 books I want to read in 2024, but then I realized if my goal is 50, that would be basically half right there is books that are kind of out of my comfort zone, I guess is the right term. So I decided to knock it down to 20 instead, so it's not taking up the majority of my TBR. So I'm just gonna go through the 20 books that I want to read, and how I created this list is basically I have a TBR list on Goodreads, and I just went I rearranged the list so that it was in order from when I added the book. And so I took the 20 books that have been on my TBR the longest, and I'm just gonna push myself to read those books. So yeah, let's get into the list. Also, if you want to follow me on Goodreads, I will link it down below. So the first book on here that I've had on my TBR list the longest is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. I hope that's how you pronounce his name. I've heard so many great things about this book, and I also heard that it is actually young adult, so it's not actually too hard to understand. I remember having a couple friends in 8th grade read it and say that it was really easy to understand, and I've been wanting to read it literally since 8th grade, and I heard my friends read about it. And then I have The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is actually The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings is my mom's favorite series, I think, of all time. And so I've been saying that I was gonna get to these books, but I haven't really been motivated to do it. But this year I definitely am, because I just love the vibe of The Lord of the Rings, and I feel I would really that's the vibe that I'm feeling this year. And then I have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I feel this is just a book every girly who's ever existed needs to read at some point, and I love the movie so much, so I'm so fascinated to see what lines were actually taken from the actual book. And then I have And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which is the OG mystery queen. And this is the OG mystery plot. And I feel I want to try more mystery thrillers this year. And so I feel this will be a perfect introduction. And it's a standalone, and it's not her Murder on the Orient Express series that she has. So it's just a standalone mystery book. And then I have my first play on here, which is A Doll's House by, what is this by? By Henrik Ibsen. I've heard that this is, what is it, like one of the OG women's plays. Like I believe that it's like has a lot of talks about feminism, if I can remember correctly. And so I've been really intrigued to read that. And then I have another play on here. I'm trying to read more plays this year as well. But I have A Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. Arthur Miller wrote one of my favorite book/play of like all time, The Crucible. And so I've been wanting to read this book for a long time, but I remember my theater teacher telling me like, wait till you're older to read this book, or this play, because you might not understand it. Like when I was in high school and I was about to read it, she was like, you might not get it. So maybe wait on that. And then I have another play, which is A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. It says on the back of the book that it's a radically new representation of Black life. And so yeah, I'm really intrigued to read that. How often am I going to say that? Like, of course I'm intrigued to read it. That's why it's on the list. But yeah, I've heard amazing things about this play. And then I have another mystery on here, which is A Poison for Breakfast by Lemony Snicket. I love Lemony Snicket. I love the series of unfortunate events. So, and I believe that this has a lot of like hidden meaning to it, I think. I don't know. I remember Emma Chamberlain read it like a couple years back and she was saying everyone needs to read this. So that's when I put it on the list and I never read it. But now this year I am, and I'm going to see what's it about. And then we've got The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, which she is the OG like depression queen, I believe, and I feel that this has a lot of like internal thoughts about it. I don't know, like she has a lot of internal like thoughts about the meaning of life. Maybe, I don't know. I try not to look too much into these books, but there's always like a reason that I put them on there. Then we have The Alchemist by Paulo. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Paulo Coelho? If that's not right. Coelho? I don't know. I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name. I heard somebody say that this book, and it's like a really short book, but it was like revolutionary and changed their life. So I was like, okay, like sign me up. It's short, it's an adventure, and I'm here for the ride. Then we have Slow Days, Fast Company, The World, The Flesh, and LA by Eve Babbitt. And Eve Babbitt was a like 1960s movie star, and I love that era of like 1960s film and like 1960s Hollywood. And this book is supposed to be like a literary fiction, but also has a lot of actual personal moments about her life interwoven in the mix. So it's like half autobiography, but it's also like a fiction story. I don't know. It's really short too, which is nice. And I've heard so many good things about Eve Babbitt and her writing, so yeah. Then we have Normal People by Sally Rooney. I watched Normal People when it came out, I believe like during COVID, and I literally had no idea what that show was about at all. I just saw that a lot of people were watching it. I was like, okay, like I've got nothing to do. That show like actually changed my life. Like it was so impactful and so beautiful, and the storytelling was just, it was gut-wrenching for real. So I wanted to read the book, obviously. But again, I was just like, I don't know if I'm ready for the emotional turmoil, the emotional damage that book's gonna do to me. So I've been putting it off, but this is the year I'm going to dive into it. Then we have The Invention of Wings by Sue Monk Kidd, and The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd was actually the book that got me into reading again. And when I told my friend that that was my new favorite book of all time, she actually told me that her favorite book was also one by Sue Monk Kidd, and it's called The Invention of Wings. And I believe that it's supposed to be about, I actually don't know, but it has something to do with feminism, I think, and women's rights, possibly. I don't know, but I loved The Secret Life of Bees, so I'm really excited to read this book, and maybe it'll be my next favorite. And then we have another play. So we have Love, Lost, and What I Wore by Nora Ephron, which is just a play, but it's like different scenes, and each scene has like a specific message that is tied to a clothing item. And then we just have like a poetry collection, because I haven't read any poetry collection before, so I wanted to like dip my toes, see how that goes. And this one is Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. I hope that's how you pronounce their name, but I believe it's just a poetry collection, but it has pictures, I heard, and that sounds really fun. The next is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde has also wrote one of my favorite plays, which was The Importance of Being Earnest, which is like a silly, like comedic play. And then The Picture of Dorian Gray is like the opposite of that. It's a dark literary fiction that delves into this man's psyche. Anyways, I think the juxtaposition between those two pieces of work is very interesting to me. So I really want to know how his writing is writing a novel versus a play, and something that is so like dark and sinister versus something that is so like fun and light and fluffy. Then we have The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, which is a coming of age story about a boy who's dealing with depression. And I love the movie so much. It's one of my favorite movies. And I heard that the book is actually just letters. And I've never read a book like that that's like written like letters or something. So I really want to see what that's about. And then we have Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. I know so many people have so many people say Olivia Blake is like their favorite author. So I really wanted to read one of their works, but I didn't know where to begin or where to start. And I read like all of the little synopses of each of them, and I thought I would start with Alone with You in the Ether. A, because it's shorter, and B, because it's like, I believe, a romance book, but it's not like a rom-com. It's more of a like emotional book. So yeah, I'm gonna start with that, and if I really like that, then I'll explore more of her other work. And then we have Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. I hope that's how. Literally just a compilation of me saying authors' names wrong. I don't even remember how I discovered this book, but basically it's like a mystery novel, but it also has a lot of commentary on the like abuse of wildlife and the food chain, which is like a really interesting combination. And I kind of want to dive more into stories that deal with the world that we live and how to take care of that world. And so I think that this book does like a little bit of both of those things. Yeah. finally, the final book on this list is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Can I say I'm a romance girly if I haven't read a Jane Austen novel? I really don't know if I can. That's actually it for this video, and I am really excited to see if I read all of these books. So I think I might film this video at the end of 2024 and see which books that I actually read and the books that I didn't. And I just told myself, since these books have been on my TBR for the longest, if I don't read them by the end of 2024, then I have to remove them from my TBR and say goodbye to them. But anyways, yeah, that's the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in another video soon.